All right, 99.9 Punk World Radio FM. You guys already know what time it is. And right here, we would proudly love to welcome back legendary actor, producer, musician. This individual is honestly a jack of all trades. We would love to welcome back onto the 99.9 Punk World Radio FM airwaves, Thomas Ian Nicholas. He is from amazing films as American Pie, a Kid in King Arthur's Court, Rookie of the Year. Honestly, we will be here all night of me just listing movies. But Thomas, how have you actually been doing? I see you're actually in the studio putting in work this evening.
Yeah, still working on the album. Obviously, I was here last time talking about Tomorrow's Gonna Hurt, the first single from the new record that came out October 19th. And we've shot some bits for the music video in Las Vegas during the When We Were Young festival. So that will be coming together soon. We've got to shoot the hotel room scenes still. We're doing a Hangover parody in Vegas. And so the new single, Same Kids, will drop December 1st. And now we're working on the third single, which I kind of leaned over my shoulder to Taylor, who's working behind me. He's basically doing all the work on the record. And I'm just hanging out doing interviews with you. And so, yeah, the third single is going to be a co-write that we just did with Zach from American Authors. So I'm pretty stoked about that one.
It definitely sounds like a phenomenal project, and I do know we're definitely going to get into a little bit more of the album, and of course, Tomorrow's Gonna Hurt, which honestly is a phenomenal song. When you gave us the exclusive of that song and actually let us play it on our station first, I had so many individuals calling in being like, I want to hear that again. Please tell us that Thomas is letting you play that. I'm like, it's in the station's airwaves, man. If you want to bump it to the top, we can bump it to the top. We can play it again.
That's awesome. Well, should we do the same? Do you want to be the first person to play Same Kids?
Hey, if you're willing to send it my way, I am honestly, as a fan of yours, I am not going to complain.
All right, I'm gonna send you the Same Kids. You'll be the first. No one's even heard this yet. So yeah, I forgot. As you're saying that, I'm like, oh, that's right, we did do that. So we got to keep up our reputation here, right?
That's phenomenal. Honestly, I gotta say, Tomorrow's Gonna Hurt. When I heard that song, I think everybody can actually relate to that song in some way, shape, or form, man. Because it's like an everyday life kind of song.
All right, so I hit it to you in the chat, a link to the Dropbox to the high resolution mastered file. So does that work, or do I need to email it to you?
It's actually in the chat. You said
Yeah, I put it
actually
in our
in the
private
chat.
chat.
In the private chat would actually work perfectly. Actually, I could just click that before I close the lobby after the interview, so it'll work out great.
Perfect. Well, then now you've got the ability to exclusively premiere another track from the new album that doesn't drop until December 1st.
And I'm going to get that into the station's airwaves right after this interview. But I do know obviously we obviously touched base on a little on majority of your career last time, but there is some questions that I did leave out, and I want to kick things off with 2004, where you directed, wrote, produced, and also acted in the film L.A. DJ. I was wondering if you could actually just tell us the story behind this amazing film, and of course, what was it like just working behind the scenes and of course starring in your own movie?
Well, I wouldn't call it an amazing film by any stretch of the imagination. It was simply my first, behind the scenes, and it was a concept that my brother came up with. That's kind of based more on his life of, being a DJ in the club scene, the like underground club scene in LA, and then ultimately being a mobile DJ and DJing, private parties. So the storyline of LA DJ, because he involved me in it, it was a story of two brothers that dream of becoming famous. They live in a trailer park and they dream of becoming famous club DJs. So they go to LA to break into the club scene, and they wind up DJing bar and bat mitzvahs.
Hey, you got to start somewhere. At the end of the day, you got to start somewhere. And bars and bar mitzvahs, especially in LA, you get a lot of traffic, man. Because bar mitzvahs, a lot of individuals that host bar mitzvahs are usually really wealthy, so they have some connections. Someone in attendance knows someone.
Yeah, well, when you get two Neanderthals, not understanding what they're doing because they're working for their uncle and they don't realize what it is, it doesn't quite work out so well for them.
And also as well, because I got to say that movie to me, I real thoroughly enjoyed that movie because like you got to see your creative side, not just on the screen, but also of course behind the screen as well. You can definitely tell that you actually had your toe dipped in every aspect of this movie.
Yeah, that's mainly because my name is all over the credits in like every department.
And before we go to talk about that movie, I have to ask, man, like, was it like super difficult to actually, act and then of course be the producer and the director and the writer? Because obviously, to say cut, you have to jump off, you have to look through the camera, then you have to come back in front of the camera. It's almost like a full circle, like every scene. Was it difficult, like doing that, or did it just come completely natural to you?
I mean, as an actor, I've always felt like you have the most fun job and not a lot of responsibility outside of, doing your job well. So basically just filled up all the downtime. When I was acting on, especially on the big budget films, there's so much downtime that that's where I really just put time into practicing guitar, sitting in my trailer. So I didn't have time to practice my guitar per se when I was wearing multiple hats, which, it's exciting, especially, I mean, at the time, and I still like it now, so even back then when I was 22, it just kind of, it was a lot of responsibility, but a lot of fun.
And also, from September 2014 to February 2015, you actually had a reoccurring role on Steven Spielberg's TV series Red Band Society. I was wondering, what was it like just working alongside the legendary Steven Spielberg, and of course, just having a part, having a part of this particular series?
Well, I wish that I could say that Steven Spielberg himself was on set, but he was not. It was simply, something on his resume. The closest we got to it was screening the pilot episode at Amblin. Amblin. Am I saying that right? Amblin. Yeah, at Amblin. So, but obviously cool to, be a part of anything that he's got his touch on. And that was an amazing series, actually. I was really sad that we only made it through half of the first season before getting canceled, even though we had 3 million viewers every week. So I don't really understand why the show, didn't make it, to the full 22 episodes for the first season. And they kind of, had Charlie, my character's son, spoiler alert, wake up from the coma, you know, 13 episodes in when he was supposed to be in his coma at least until the beginning of season 2, as far as I understood.
I gotta say, network executives are so weird like that. I think they have such high expectations for a certain show that if it goes a little under, they're like Nixon. I think they probably thought it would do like probably doubled out those viewers just because of Steven Spielberg's name attached to it. But I gotta say, I watched it every single week when it was on TV, and I was super disappointed when they actually took it off. Man, such a great show.
Well, it's fun. On the first episode, I did a cover of "How to Save a Life" by The Fray, and because of that, I ended up releasing an acoustic cover of that song. And I bring that up today because my frat party album from 2017 is getting released onto vinyl for the first time on November 10th. And as a bonus track, we've put 1999 and my cover of "How to Save a Life." So just to change it up a little bit, since the album is a few years old, so you got to spice it up a bit, I suppose.
And I gotta say, I'm definitely looking forward to getting my hands on a copy of that wax. I would love to hear Stifler's mom spinning on vinyl.
Right on. Well, I know that Enjoy the Ride Records will have an online store. For myself, I'll have some copies with me at some live events, which I've got to get back up to Canada. We talked about this last time. I haven't played there since
Yeah.
I think like 2000 and I don't even know, like 2010 or something, even farther back than that. I don't know.
And I gotta say, I wouldn't even just say. I honestly, it's so many bands like that too. There, Thomas. Like it's weird. Canada always seems to be last, and I get it though because the music market here is very different, right? It's not like the U.S. or the U.K. When it comes to music in Canada, we support bands. Don't get me wrong. It's just it's very different. I think the cities are just so far apart, if that makes sense. When in the States, you can go from New York to Philly to Jersey and bounce around so much easier. But you got mostly field here in Canada.
Yeah, it's more. I think touring in Canada is more like touring in Australia, where you've got to kind of fly between the cities or have like massive drives. Obviously, you can't even drive through the center of Australia, but you can hit, the East Coast. But you've got like 8 hour drives every day.
Yeah, and by the time you do that 8 hour drive, you're just so damn tired, you don't even want to go on stage. You're like, all right, can I kind of sleep? Can we reschedule this?
No
But
doubt,
also, as well,
no
Thomas,
doubt.
in 2015, you had the opportunity to portray Walt Disney in the biopic called Walt Before Mickey. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about working on that particular film. And of course, obviously, you growing up, you had the opportunity to actually, star in Disney movies. What was it like actually portraying Walt Disney, just knowing that you had the opportunity to be in, his movies when you were a kid?
It was an amazing honor to play Walt Disney. I do know that when I got the phone call about the opportunity, I of course was like, yeah, that would be amazing. I read the script right away. I was a really compelling story, and I didn't know about all of his failures in his early life and career. So when I accepted the offer, they said, "Great, you start next week," and my flight was 5 days from the time that I said yes.
And I gotta say, that movie was absolutely phenomenal. I will be honest, I'm a huge fan of your career. I did not know about that movie until last night when I was doing the questions for this interview, and I was like, how have I not seen this? I watched the trailer because I wanted to make sure that it was real, because I'm like, I've seen all of Thomas's movies. Well, I thought I did it. I thought I did at this point, and I watched the trailer to make sure it was you, or maybe it was just, a mess up on IMDb. And I was like, okay, looks like I am not going to bed tonight. I have to watch this movie.
Oh, no way, you watched it last night?
It was it was actually really good, man. I love the fact that it was a very early days of Walt Disney. I think it was from like the early 1900s to I think it was like 1926 or something like that.
Yeah, I played him from the age of 18 until 27, which is right around the time that he, created Mortimer the mouse, which became Mickey. And then at the very end of the film, we play the first Disney cartoon, which everyone mistakes and thinks that it's Steamboat Willie, but it's Plain Crazy.
I still like the scene when yourself and your partner and your business partner actually walked in and your partner's like, "This is like what's this? This is our office," and it's just a barn.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we obviously we stretched the truth a little bit because he had many starts and stops in the early part, but that would have been a little too repetitive, at least in the story making or the storytelling of Walt's early life. But he, we did at least show where he met Iwerks at the newspaper place, but we didn't go through him getting fired there and getting fired and starting really. I think the first thing was the barn, or it was like a shed. He had like three startups before he eventually started Laugh-O-Grams, but they sort of, kind of we just combined it into one startup of Laugh-O-Gram and then into, a new office building.
And especially too with biopics, you got to cut some things out, unfortunately, because just the fact you'll be the movie will be like 6 hours long. So you got to cut some things out. But it definitely makes sense if you had three different things that was kind of like a barn, like a shed, and then you might as well just make a barn and just incorporate it all together. It definitely makes sense.
Yeah, we combine those three just to sort of tell that story of like start and stop without it being too repetitive. But they did call me the human Walt encyclopedia when I was there because they would like go, oh well, this rent is $15. I'm like, well, actually, it says on page 73 it was only $5 a month. So
Hey, but at least you know your script. I've heard stories of some actors that actually get on set and they don't even know their script. They actually have to read it in their trailer, and then they come out and just ace the lines. But it's great that you actually know your script off by heart. Just shows how
well,
professional you are of an actor.
it was a script that was an adaptation of Timothy Sassaine's book by the same title, that had the forward written by Diane Disney Miller, Walt's daughter, and so the book was not very compelling. It was more like an encyclopedia where it would talk about things like that, like, oh, Walt rented this office space for this amount, and he went to the supply store and he bought these items, and here's the receipt. But it was the book that I would be referencing to keep the script on point, because I just made sure that even though they were taking some creative license, that other things maintained, the details that Timothy Sissane had gone to great lengths to, investigate and find the backing of that. So that was like, I knew the script, and I was constantly like keeping them on point by referencing the book itself. That's why they called me the human encyclopedia on set.
And one of the last questions I actually have about your acting career, we actually have a guest question. A viewer question. My apologies. Victoria wants to know, he was also a VIP guest on Hell's Kitchen in season 15. What was it like being at the Hell's Kitchen with Chef Gordon Ramsay?
That was a very cool opportunity. Actually ran into Gordon Ramsay a few years after that when I was a guest at Bottle Rock, a festival in Napa. I was on the culinary stage, making, ironically, an apple pie, of course. But at the Hell's Kitchen, I thought for sure I was going to end up with more of a bit in the show, because I brought some friends with me, and I brought my agent at the time. And when we got our steaks, hers was like practically mooing across the plate. So we sent it back, and we thought for sure like they were going to say no, or like we'd watch Gordon like yell at somebody like we were so used to seeing him do in Hell's Kitchen. And then nothing really happened. They just brought the new steak over, and I was like, well, that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I gotta say, honestly, I would be scared. I'm not gonna lie. Like I've seen like Hell's Kitchen, watched it a lot with my wife. So, I mean, if I had a steak like that and I sent it back, I would get scared that Gordon Ramsay would be yelling at me. That guy seems really, really scary. I ain't gonna lie.
I listen, I was a little like, no, don't, but just have some of mine. Like, don't do it. But then obviously didn't make the cut of the show anyway. So, and nothing really happened. She just got it cooked more and got another one.
But aside from the show, I actually have heard stories that Gordon is actually the complete opposite of how he actually acts in Hell's Kitchen. Like, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard stories that he is actually really super nice. But obviously, if you mess up a dish, then, he turns into a Monster Ramsay.
Right.
But on April 7th of 2015, you actually had the opportunity to appear on Blue Traveler's album Blow Up the Moon, where you also co-wrote the song All the Way. I was wondering, what was it like just working alongside the Blue Travelers, and of course, having the opportunity to actually just work in the studio with them, co-writing that particular song?
Yeah, that was an awesome opportunity. I remember I got the phone call asking if I wanted to write with John Popper and Blues Traveler, and I was so stoked at the opportunity. So I live in Los Angeles, and they were sort of on tour. They were doing a one-off show in New Orleans. So their manager was like, "Hey, can you be in New Orleans tomorrow?" And I said, "Sure, what time?" And like got on a plane the next day, flew directly to New Orleans, sort of waited for John to be available, and hung out with some of the band and got a bite to eat and went to a pool hall, and we stayed up like super late writing trying a few different songs out, and then kind of landed on the one that is in there, and we recorded just the basic tracks the next day in the studio. And I know that they were like, we got to LA, and Chan, who lives there in LA, we ended up doing a session at Studio 606, which is how I got introduced to everyone at 606, how I was able to record the Frat Party album at the same studio, because they don't just let anyone come into Dave Grohl's and Foo Fighters studio. You have to kind of know the people. So it was Blues Traveler that introduced me to everyone there. And I remember too, like there was like 17 songs that had been written for that album. So to make the cut, because I think they only put 14 on the actual finished album, was pretty cool. That it wasn't just like a kitschy opportunity, because there was co-writes in there with Hanson, with Jewel, with the Dirty Heads and Rome from Sublime, and yeah, it was a lot of people on there. So, and 303 had 2 songs on there. So it was pretty cool. And then I got to go perform with them at Red Rock, as well as the Greek Theater. So that was an amazing opportunity.
And it just proves how amazing of a band they have because like, I have so many co-writes. Like I said, they have Hanson, they have Sublime, they have yourself, Thomas Nicholas. That right there was three different genres of music, just those three names alone. So it just shows just how universal their music really is, and how they can actually have someone from different genres co-write it and still actually make it sound like a Blue Travelers record.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I remember when John was on tour at some point, and my band was playing a show at the Viper Room, and he popped in and jammed the song with us at the Viper Room. So that was pretty cool.
And also as well in the same year, just a matter of about less than 15 days after that, April 20th of 2015, you actually released the amazing 10-track album titled Security. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about this amazing album, and of course, is it actually still out there to be streamed or purchased today in 2023?
Yeah, all of my albums are available on Spotify, and they're all now under one roof, so to speak. Because my initial release was Thomas Ian Nicholas, and then that was Without Warning, and then I did Thomas Nicholas, the acoustic version of Without Warning, and then I went under Thomas Nicholas Band. So I've thus kind of combined everything underneath the Thomas Nicholas Band moniker. So now it's all in one spot, not just randomly three different profiles. And yeah, the Security album was an album that I wrote with Caleb Turman from Forever the Sickest Kids back in 2014. He was living in Portland at the time. And so I went there and we wrote the entire album in 5 days. And then I went to Chicago, LA, and Nashville to record it.
That's absolutely amazing. Like 5 days to just 5 days of writing an album. You must have had all the ideas already up here, man. Because 5 days to write an album, I know to some people it might be like, oh, that's easy, but to write a whole album in 5 days to me is just absolutely astonishing.
We had no idea what we were doing. Caleb just invited me to come up to Portland and hang out and write, and I didn't really know what to expect. I don't think we even had the goal of writing 10 songs. But it was just sort of one of those things where, Caleb would like hit me with an idea and we'd vibe on it. And I mean, we didn't write them in their entirety, but we wrote all the inceptions of the idea. I think after that point, I, went and finished the lyrics, and, we weren't completing them or even demoing them really. I think we only demoed like one song while we were there, because what can you do in 5 days? You certainly can't write and demo that many songs without knowing what you're doing. But yeah, it was an amazing experience, and that's probably the first time I was really, really stoked with what I got. And so I printed CD and vinyl, so that one's still available on disc and on vinyl.
And also as well, I know we briefly spoke about this song during our first interview, and we obviously briefly spoke about it at the beginning of this interview. But October 19th of 2023, you released the phenomenal single titled "Tomorrow's Gonna Hurt." I was wondering if you can actually just tell us the story behind just the lyrics of this song, because like I mentioned earlier, it is a song that like everybody can absolutely like relate to at some point in their life. Like where did you actually come up with the lyrics of this song?
I mean, obviously on a surface level, the song, to everyone is just about like staying out too late and, maybe partaking in too many libations, and having a hangover the next day. But really, the song for me, as far as like Taylor and I writing the lyrics, it started to become more about you know life's problems and challenges, and just kind of saying, hey, no matter what's going on, I'm still just going to go have a good time with my friends and not worry about it right now. And there will be repercussions for that the following day, but kind of like the self-awareness of that, but choosing to do it anyway. And I think, I don't know, on a deeper level, that kind of means to me that, especially as a dad, like with my kids, it sort of means to me that you're never really going to get to where you want to go. So you have to learn how to take the moments that you need when the moments come, you know what I mean? Like, and not just try to, live life in a goal oriented style. But again, on a surface level, I think, Taylor and I, when we first met, we just planned on, hanging out for just a quick drink, get to know one another in person. and we ended up, closing out the spot and listening to music for another 3 hours in my car afterwards. So we certainly are the last to leave anything, no matter what responsibilities we have the next day. I'm pretty sure that Taylor had been out a little bit too late the night before, when he had the session with me, and that's what I was considering him to be the producer on the record. And so he kind of was feeling a little bit of that, tomorrow's going to hurt, when he kind of pitched me the idea. So, I mean, let's face it, he is in Lit and of course Chemical Fire with RJ Hale. So, he's no stranger to being a rock star.
And I do know you spoke about a music video that you're actually currently being filmed right now. You're doing like a hangover kind of vibe. I have to just touch base on that because obviously you can't let too many surprises out. But who was actually good? Who was casted in the music video to actually play the members of the Wolf Pack, as they call it?
Well, initially we were going to shoot the hotel suite in Vegas earlier this month, or like, actually, what's the date today? We were supposed to shoot it tomorrow, but the date got pushed back. So now it seems like Taylor's going to be available to come be a part of it with me. So I, of course, I'm going to open up the video and play Ed Helms' character. And even though Taylor is as good looking, if not better, than Bradley Cooper, he wants to play Zach Galifianakis' character. So I don't really know who else we're going to have yet, because it's going to be sort of based upon availability. I have so many different bands that I jam with in different cities, but I think I kind of want to invite some of the people that I'm co-writing with on the record. So that's, again, it's going to be based upon the final date that I get from the Palms, where we're going to be shooting the hotel scene, and then who's available when I get that date.
Hey, just remember, if you do toss somebody up on the hotel roof with their mattress, make sure you leave the door unlocked so they don't get like viciously sunburned.
Well, I think the plan is with that one is, even though it's so hard to get up on an actual roof, it's so, like, without getting in trouble, especially in Vegas. I think if we do that scene, we might utilize one of the rooftop infinity pools that they have at the Palms, maybe by like making a bed on one of those. What are they? I guess it's a pool raft, or as they call them in England, a lilo.
And also, as well, I do know you mentioned when we actually spoke about setting up this second interview that you actually just got signed to a brand new record deal as well. And of course, as we already know, right now you're in the studio working on this brand new album. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a bit more about this brand new record deal, and of course, a little bit more about what we can expect from this up and coming Thomas Nicholas band record.
Yeah, SBAM is the company. They're based out of Austria. They're sort of a smaller punk rock label. They also throw a really killer festival in Austria and Germany that's coming up in the end of May, beginning of June this year. So the plan is that the whole album, my seventh album, is going to drop on May 17th, sort of leading up to that. And I will be doing, I'm doing two tours in Europe next year, as well as two more in the UK, and the one in the UK next week. But the plan is for the album to be available on CD and vinyl, and then I'm going to go play the SBAM Fest in Austria. And I'm not sure I can talk about the other bands that are going to be there, but I can tell you that last year, Bowling for Soup and Less Than Jake both played, so they have amazing bands at this festival. So I'm pretty stoked that I get to be a part of that.
It definitely sounds like a phenomenal festival. I really hope that, at some point, the Thomas Nicholas Band and, of course, all those other bands can actually venture down to Canada. Because I got to say, I really think that a Canadian show would be absolutely sold out for Thomas Nicholas.
Well, I hope that something comes to. I'll reach out to my friends that I have in Calgary and Vancouver and see if I can't at least set up a couple of things. I think that would be a lot of fun. I'm definitely well overdue for a return to Canada, just even in general, just to see my friends. I don't think I've been there since I played a show there, really.
And the one thing I have to ask you, I guess this is like a burning question that I've always wanted to ask you. Since we're just doing this interview, I was going to ask you the last interview we talked about this movie like probably about a good solid 10 minutes, so I moved on from it. But there was a picture that ET Canada actually, sorry, ET, I think it was the American version, put out of the American Pie cast together as like a little mini reunion. And people were speculating that at some point there's going to be another American Pie movie. Is that actually something that is true, or is that just something that, or is that just a simple Entertainment Tonight reunion?
That was a simple Entertainment Tonight reunion, which I didn't make because I was booked with my band on that particular date. Um, I know that Universal has been circling around the idea, so there's certainly interest. I know that people that like the movie are really hopeful that we will do something like that. There's nothing official. I mean, certainly not right now while we're still on strike and they're in the final throes of negotiation to finally end that. So yeah, there's nothing I can really report other than I'm just as hopeful as everyone else, and I think that we as the cast would welcome it with open arms. I think it's just a question of Universal holds the keys to the kingdom, so they've got to be the ones to sort of turn the car on, so to speak.
Yeah, I had to bring that up because I do know the first interview, people were even commenting, being like, "Man, why didn't you bring that up?" And I'm like, "Dude, I don't want to focus on one movie an entire interview." You know what I mean? But they're like, "If you interview him again, you better ask that." And I'm like, "Okay, okay, I'll ask the man himself."
Fair enough. Fair
but
enough.
but also, I know you mentioned about this amazing tour that you actually do have coming up. That's actually next week. You'll be venturing off to England, United Kingdom, from November 14th to the 19th, doing various shows and meet and greets. And I think you even got a Comic Con meet and greet actually set up as well. I was wondering, what cities do you actually plan on hitting in the UK? And of course, where can we actually snag ourselves some tickets to come on out if we are going to be in the England area?
Well, I'm going to be hitting London, Nottingham, um, Northampton, Stockport, and Telford. And all the links just as an easy place to find them. I mean, I put them on Songkick and bands in town, but on my website, it's just / Tix, like TIX, and there's a link to all the shows in England. And so a lot of times when I'm gearing up for a tour, I'll just kind of put everything under that, like kind of link to make it an easy hub for anyone that lives in those areas to easily find the link without having to random Google search and fail.
And I saw that a really, really cool creative promo you actually put up on your Instagram a couple of days ago where you were like sitting in a closet and then I think your publicist opened the door. I gotta say, that chair, was it supposed to fall? Because I gotta say, either way, it blended in perfectly with the video.
The chair was not supposed to fall. That was my friend Wade. We were out in Vegas catching our friend Aaron Jones play at a festival out there. And so we were in the hotel room waiting for lobby call. And Wade was like throwing all these ideas at me. He's like, you should go in the shower. You should be in the bathtub. You should do this and you should do that. And I'm like, the only one that I thought was like remotely funny, because I was like, I'm not going to go in a bathtub for this video, was being in the closet. He, of course, wanted me to like cut it together with like scenes from American Wedding of when I was tied up in the closet. I think at least a couple of people caught the reference of that. No, the chair was not supposed to fall. In fact, I'm gonna drop a blooper later this week. The first time we did the take, not only did the chair fall, but I fell with the chair. So that'll go up later, just because I think it's so funny. I saved it. I'm gonna totally just make fun of myself.
But hey, at least he didn't. At least he didn't want you to recreate the entire American Wedding clip with the chocolate sauce and all that. That would have been a little. That would have been weird, but I guess a lot of people would have been funny as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could have bought some duct tape and been late for bus call, but then we would have missed our friend's show. So,
But I gotta say, first and foremost, obviously you got an amazing album coming out. You just signed an amazing record deal. You got a tour coming up. What is next for yourself, Thomas Nicholas? Like, is there anything we happen to miss during this evening's interview that you still want to touch on, talk about, or promote? What was it got you here live on the radio station Airwaves this evening?
well, I think the best thing that I can sort of share right now is obviously we've talked about the upcoming Tomorrow's Gonna Hurt music video, and then I've just sent you the very first sneak preview of Same Kids that hits on December 1st. I also am shooting a music video for that one as well. And I've shot some stuff in Chicago, and I will be shooting some more in Los Angeles very soon, hopefully this week. So yeah, that one's a very, very different song. I would say the opposite end of the spectrum, to kind of show you the highs and lows that are going to exist on this seventh album. So thanks for agreeing to be the first to premiere it.
Hey, thank you so much for just sending it our way. And of course, again, thank you for sending Tomorrow's Gonna Hurt our way as well and being exclusive. It's kind of cool you got to get a chance to, debut not one but two Thomas Nicholas Band videos. And while we are live, I do want to let the listeners know that right after this interview commences, I'm going to make sure that this song plays at exactly 11 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be in constant rotation after that, but if you want to hear it for the very first time, 11 p.m., so in exactly 30 minutes, be in the radio station Airwaves to hear this song. And if you don't, you can catch it in rotation, but I will tell you, 11 p.m., which is 7 p.m. West Coast time, slide on through to Punk World Radio and definitely hear this song, because I'm excited to hear it myself.
Right on, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And
You're most certainly welcome.
Hopefully by the time our interview's over, Taylor will have finished this new song.
It sounds like the entire interview he hasn't even been paying attention to. He hasn't even paying attention to any of our antics.
No, I think he just noticed that I'm doing an interview.
Well, I got to say, I'm a huge fan of his work as well. So I know you are in great hands, Thomas, with Taylor, because he's a phenomenal producer. So he's definitely going to make one hell of a phenomenal record.
Yes, indeed. And then, I guess, can I talk about the other song that's coming out December 1st?
Talk about whatever.
Okay, so we have Taylor is also producing Chad Tepper's record. And so Chad came in a couple weeks ago, and at the end of my session, and I was like, "Hey man, great to see you." I had met him at the Lit show like a year ago, and I was like, "Have a good session." He's like, No, stay." And it turned out he was writing a song to get Smash Mouth to do a co-write on it and sing on the second verse. So I ended up staying and writing that song with Taylor and Chad. So that song will also drop on December 1st, the same day as Same Kids. So not on my record, but on Chad's record as a, co-write with Smash Mouth. So it's kind of a wild time right now working with Taylor. I never know what's next.
And by the sounds of it, you never know who's going to walk in the door either.
No, that's how we ended up writing with Zach from American Authors. He walked into the studio just to say hi to Taylor, and Taylor's like, "Hey, check out this song that we're working on." And then 5 minutes later, Zach's vamping verses on it, and then 3 hours later, he's in the vocal booth recording.
I gotta say, that is absolutely phenomenal. So hopefully people keep walking in the door, man, because like I said, you have phenomenal music, and of course, you're obviously a well-known name, not only in movies, but also music as well. So if I was an artist, I'd definitely want to work with the one, the only, Thomas Nicholas.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me back on the air. And you know what? I think we're going to keep this a thing. So, maybe we'll reconvene in January before this next single drops, and you should just premiere that one too.
Sounds great. And like I told you last time, if you keep sending them, we here at Punk World Radio FM are going to keep spinning them, Thomas. But I will let you get back to your work in the studio, because I do know Taylor is probably being like, "Man, you need to stop doing interviews. You've got to get over here and do some work with me." So I will definitely let you go for tonight, Thomas. But again, thank you so much, man, for just, giving myself this opportunity for a second interview. I never thought I'd ever be able to interview you the first time, let alone twice. I know I told you this the last time. Huge fan of your movies. Grew up when watching A Kid in King Arthur's Court. Obviously grew up with the American Pie movies. So thank you so much, man, for years of not only just music, but also entertainment on the big screen as well, man. You were a huge part of my childhood and teenage years. So just being able to converse with you not once but twice and premiere your songs not once but twice on my radio station is such a tremendous honor, man. So thank you so much for these opportunities. I greatly appreciate it.
Dude, I appreciate you, and let's keep it up, man.
Definitely. Sounds great. We definitely are connected via social media, and of course email. We have each other's contacts, so anytime you need anything, Thomas, definitely reach out. We can definitely make it happen.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for having me back on.
You're most certainly welcome, Thomas. Definitely have yourself a phenomenal night, and of course, a killer studio session.
Will do, man. Thank you. Take care until January.
Definitely until January. I'm definitely going to keep my eyes peeled and looking forward to hearing what actually comes from the Thomas Nicholas Band in January. I'm super excited.
Thank you so much.